Writing essays for the Cambridge C2 Proficiency exam can be incredibly overwhelming. And that's why you need to make things easier for yourself. You need to plan. You need to understand what you're going to write and understand how you're going to write it before you begin to write. Otherwise, it's very easy to make a big mess. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about planning and structuring two types of C2 Proficiency essay. Yeah, there are two types. One involving two complementary texts and one involving two contrasting texts. And if that sounds confusing, then don't worry. We're going to go through all of it together as a team. Let's go! For your essay in part 1 of the Cambridge C2 Proficiency CPE exam, you will be given two short texts of about 100 words each. So that's 200 words of reading in total. It is your job to write a discursive essay about these texts. Which brings us to our first question. Toby, what is a discursive essay? A discursive essay explores a topic through the discussion of various points of view. So basically, what this means for us is that in our essay, we need to discuss and evaluate various points of view relating to a topic. The essay itself should be between 240 and 280 words, but do not worry about your word count too much. The important thing is that you, number one, include all of the information necessary to effectively complete the task, and number two, do not include any irrelevant information. In the entire Cambridge C2 Proficiency writing exam, you will be given 90 minutes. This means you should spend about 45 minutes on your essay. And I think that you should spend at least 10 minutes planning your essay. Seriously, it is going to save you a massive headache later on. Now, remember that I told you you would be given two texts. Let's have a look at these texts now. They could either be complementary or contrasting. If the two texts are complementary, then they will build on from one another. So, they may present two different aspects of one issue, or one may provide an opinion and the other may provide background information. They will not contain any contradictory information or viewpoints. On the other hand, if the texts are contrasting, then they will present two contradictory, competing viewpoints about the same topic. Next, to help you, I'm going to give you a checklist. This is to give you a list of things to do and questions to ask yourselves when you read your two texts for the first time. Number one, the first thing you need to ask yourself is, what is the topic of the two texts? Number two, what is the question that these two texts are trying to answer when considered in combination? Now, I don't want one question per text. I want you to think of one general question that these texts, when put together, are dealing with. It is this question that will provide some direction to your essay. Number three, are these texts complementary or are they contrasting? And number four, I would like you to make a short list of the central points made by each text. Now, the simpler that you keep these, the better, and ideally, after you have written all of this information down, you will never look at these two texts again. This should help you present and analyze the ideas contained in the texts in your own words, because you're not going to get any points at all for simply copying and pasting. No, I'm really sorry. So the simpler you keep these bullet points, the more likely and able you are going to be to take these bullet points and craft them into something beautiful using your own tongue. Or hands. So you're not going to write with your tongue, because that would be disgusting and unsanitary. Ugh. Okay then, so let us now finally have a look at our first pair of texts. Here are our two texts. Now, give yourselves 5 minutes to read these two texts and complete 4 tasks. What is the topic? What is the question? Do these texts complement or contrast? And what are the main points presented in each? Let us have a look then. In these two texts, the topic is digital advertising through the use of the digital screen. What is the question? Well, let us keep this as simple as possible. Are digital screens in advertising a good thing? Next, do these two texts complement each other or contrast? They contrast. Text 1 makes the case that digital advertising is positive, while text 2 argues that it is negative. And lastly, here are the main points I have written to summarize each text. How do they align with yours? Now we have all of the information that we need to organize the structure of our essay. We have the topic, we have the question, we know that our two texts are contrasting, and we have all of the points that we need to include. Oof, marvellous. Because this essay is essentially a for and against essay, are digital screens in advertising a good thing, yes or no, I'm going to organise this essay into 4 paragraphs. My first paragraph will be an introduction. My second paragraph will summarise and evaluate the main points made in text 1. So, in essence, paragraph 2 is going to be making the argument that digital screens in advertising are a good thing. My third paragraph is going to summarise and evaluate the arguments made in text 2. So it is going to push back against paragraph 2 by asserting that digital screens in advertising are a bad thing. It's my against paragraph. And my fourth and final paragraph will be my conclusion, which will summarise the main points of the essay and provide a final thought for the reader. This could be my own opinion, or it could be, I don't know, a prediction for the future or something. I don't have to express my opinion here. I just need to explain and evaluate a variety of viewpoints. So when you're writing this, don't feel pressured to take a side, because you don't need to. Let's now take a look at our introduction. So for this essay, what am I going to do in my introduction? I am going to outline the general situation and then introduce a tension that exists between two contrasting points of view. This lets the examiner know 2 things. Number 1, that I've understood the general situation or development that the two texts are referring to, and 2, that I understand that there is a contrast between these two texts, and therefore this essay is going to be analysing and evaluating 2 contrasting opinions. Outdoor advertising until recently consisted of posters placed about the environment. Easy to ignore, albeit not exactly an improvement to the cityscape. However, with the dramatic rise in digital technology, this is changing. Paper-based outdoor advertising is giving way to the digital screen, with effects both positive and negative. I explained that there has been a transition from using paper-based advertising to the digital screen, and then I assert that this has had some positive consequences and negative consequences. That's it. That's all that's necessary. So now for my first body paragraph, paragraph 2. And as I said before, this is going to refer to text 1. So it's going to outline the positive effects of using the digital screen as a medium for advertising. I will ensure to include as many of the points as I can from my notes, and then I will either strengthen them or I will weaken them. In this example, I'm going to strengthen them for the time being. I will weaken them in paragraph 3, but enough about that. Let's take a look at paragraph 2. Here is my list of points to include. Advertising agencies are undoubtedly thrilled at this development. While upfront costs may be more expensive than the simple printing of a poster, overall screens prove cheaper. Indeed, one screen may last for decades and could host thousands of different advertisements.
Additionally, they are bright, dynamic, and can transform otherwise dull cityscapes into urban spectacles. Imagine Times Square or Tokyo without their famous and towering animated billboards, informing the public of the latest products available below. I open my paragraph with a topic sentence that lets the reader know that this paragraph will deal with the positive aspects of the digital screen. I then discuss and evaluate the claim related to costs and expand on it. I do the same with the claim related to them being bright, attractive, and informative. This is important. Notice that I do not simply repeat the claim the author made. I also provide an additional sentence or clause justifying it.
Yeah, you will notice how I do not directly reference the texts in these essays. I do not say, text 1 argues that digital advertising through the digital screen has been a positive thing. No. However, if you want to do that, then go ahead. You can. You don't need to pretend that these texts don't exist. If you want to directly acknowledge their existence and directly mention them, then you can. Cambridge aren't going to mind. And now I need to do the exact same thing for paragraph 3, only with reference to text 2, which has a negative view of using the digital screen for advertisements. So let's see what this could look like.
And again, here is my list of points to include. This is not to say the development has been wholly positive. Critics posit that the inescapable nature of the illuminated billboard raises concerns regarding the impact of advertising on every facet of our existence. Responsible advertising should aim to inform and convince those with reason and logic. Yet too often, these adverts are aimed at children who are unable to make rational decisions themselves. Worse still, adverts for gambling, alcohol, and tobacco products prey on the most vulnerable members of society. Lastly, and in my opinion most importantly, the environmental impact of screens is substantial. Not only are they difficult to recycle, but also the energy costs required to keep them running are astronomical. I open my paragraph with a topic sentence that lets the reader know that this paragraph will deal with the negative aspects of the digital screen, in contrast to the prior paragraph. And then I deal with each point in my list, adding additional information and examples.
Notice that I have introduced one of my points here with "in my opinion", and this is to explicitly let Cambridge know that I'm doing some evaluating here that has come from my own brain box. So do not be scared to do this. You can do this. You can give your own opinion in the body paragraphs. Just make sure that you are directly evaluating or elucidating upon claims made in either text 1 or text 2. Now, finally, for the conclusion. I want to summarize and identify the fundamental tension that is presented in this essay. It seems to me that the fundamental tension presented is between innovation and responsibility. So I'm going to synthesize everything that has already been said by using this tension: innovation and responsibility. Wow. Then we are going to close with a final thought. And again, this final thought does not need to be a strong opinion. You don't need to take a side. You can if you want, but the purpose of this essay is not necessarily to convince anyone of anything. It's just to say, these opinions exist, and here is some evaluation of the ideas that they use to justify these opinions. Right? That's all you're doing.
So here is my conclusion. Ultimately, it is a question of balance between commercial innovation and social responsibility. Regulation with an emphasis on ethics and energy will be essential if this technology is to serve society rather than dominate it. I restate the tension and then provide a final thought. Done. So, here is our essay based on two contrasting texts. Pause the video here and read it all together, if you want.
So, there we have it. That was an essay about two contrasting ideas, but unfortunately, for the C2 Proficiency exam, not every essay is about two contrasting texts. No, Instead, you could have two texts that are complementary to each other. Yeah, let's have a look.
So here are two more texts. Remember our checklist from before. I would like you, again, to give yourselves 5 minutes to identify the topic, identify the question, decide whether the texts are complementary or contrasting, and to make a short list of the central points contained in each text. Let's go! So, what's the topic? Here, it is increasing human lifespan. The question is using science to significantly prolong human life a positive thing? The texts are complementary. Text 1 states that it is very possible that soon humans will be living much longer than they do now. It does not take a position about whether this development is positive or negative. Text 2 agrees that this is a possibility, but states that it is a negative development. And here are the main points I have taken from each text to include in my essay.
Now, before we start writing, we need to structure our essay. And I'm going to do something slightly different here. Our private essay, that was a for and against essay, consisted of 4 paragraphs, but this time I'm going to use 5. We will start, of course, with an introduction. Our second paragraph will outline the situation explained in text 1, that being the ability to dramatically increase the human lifespan through science. Now, I'm choosing to discuss text 1 in paragraph 2 instead of text 2 because text 2 builds from text 1. An understanding of text 1 will enrich someone's appreciation of the arguments made in text 2. And as a result of that, I'm discussing text 1 first in paragraph 2. If it was the other way around, then I would be discussing text 2 in paragraph 2 and text 1 in paragraph 3. This all gets very confusing, but the point is, there is a logical reason for me choosing to discuss text 1 before I discuss text 2. Okay? Alright, yeah. So, of course, paragraph 3 will discuss the concerns outlined in text 2. Now, our fourth paragraph is going to discuss my own idea. Now, this can either be in support of the general idea of text 2, or it can be presented as a criticism of the ideas presented in text 2. I think for the time being, I'm just going to agree and add another idea that supports the general idea of text 2, just to keep things simple. And then our final paragraph is going to be a conclusion with some closing thoughts, possibly your own opinion. I think in this essay I am going to give my own opinion, and it is going to be in broad agreement with text 2. This is because I have presented the opinions of text 2 in paragraph 3, and then in paragraph 4 I've presented another idea that's in support of the general idea of text 2, so it would be strange if I then in my opinion said, but actually I want to live forever, so right? It wouldn't be logical. Okay, so let's take a look at our introduction. All I'm going to do for this introduction is outline the general situation. I'm not going to present two contrasting viewpoints here because, well, I don't have two contrasting viewpoints in my texts.
So here is a possible example. Eternal life has long been a dream of humanity, yet some daring scientists are suggesting that it may soon be a reality. Indeed, it could well be that the first human to live to 1,000 years of age is already among us. I have introduced the general idea that some scientists believe the human lifespan will soon increase. I have also added a detail from text 1 about how some believe the first human to live to 1,000 is already alive today. And that's it. 3 sentences. I've kept it quite simple.
My next paragraph, paragraph 2, is going to expand on the introduction by explaining it. using information from text 1. I am also going to provide a transition at the end of paragraph 2 to link it to the criticisms of this development presented in text 2 that will be presented in paragraph 3. This is to try and create some cohesion between my paragraphs. These sorts of things are important because they demonstrate that the essay is a cohesive whole and not a bunch of disconnected paragraphs discussing a variety of texts that could be put in any order and have no real relationship to each other. So remember, as well as having connections within your paragraphs with linking expressions and ideas that clearly follow on from each other, make sure that your paragraphs are connected between themselves too. Okay? Okay.
Life expectancy in the developed world has been consistently climbing. What were once fatal illnesses have turned into minor irritations, thanks to improvements in medical care, and new discoveries in novel scientific fields promise to dramatically increase our lifespans. At first glance, these appear to be positive developments. Who would not want to spend longer with their loved ones and postpone the dark unknown of death? I have explained in greater detail the two central points of text 1, and then I have closed with a rhetorical question. This foreshadows the point of view I am about to introduce in paragraph 3 based on text 2.
And of course, my next paragraph, paragraph 3, will discuss some of the points made in text 2.
So here is my list of points to include. Now, I have decided that I agree with text 2, so I am going to include one of the central arguments here, that related to resources. Yet, while the human lifespan may become infinite, the Earth's resources will not. Humans require food, water, and energy, and even today millions are struggling due to shortages. Now let us imagine what would happen if the 1,000-year lifespan were added to the equation. These shortages would be exacerbated, and as a result, so would human and environmental suffering. And here it is. Once again, I open with a topic sentence to inform the reader that this paragraph will problematize the idea of lengthening human life. And then I will discuss the central points of text 2.
As I said before, paragraph 4 is going to be one of my own ideas. I want it to be kind of like a continuation of text 2, in broad agreement with text 2, but something that goes beyond what text 2 initially suggested. My claim is going to be related to inequality. This argument here is fundamentally a moral one, so it can be seen as an extension of an idea that was introduced in text 2. I'm taking the seed of an idea and I'm growing it into a beautiful sunflower. So let's have a look at the sunflower and smell it together.
In addition, as with any cutting-edge technology, extended lifespans would remain the privilege of the wealthy. Do we seriously want a society in which the rich not only hoard the majority of the world's physical resources, but also, perhaps, the most precious resource of all? Time. Here it is. I let the reader know I will be continuing from paragraph 3 with "in addition," and I make my claim, strengthening it with a rhetorical question.
And finally, we need to write our conclusion. Now, of course, in this essay, our conclusion kind of needs to present an opinion. I mean, we've spent 2 paragraphs talking about why research into anti-aging is a bad thing. So in the conclusion, we can't just say, but actually, I don't care, or actually, I think anti-aging is a great thing, because it wouldn't make any sense. It would also involve explaining why you think it's a good thing, and that would involve introducing new ideas in your conclusion, and that is a terrible thing. Seriously, do not introduce new ideas in your conclusion. No. No. Instead, our conclusion should be a pretty little synthesis of everything that we've already discussed. For example, in our previous essay, our conclusion summarized the tension, innovation, and responsibility between 2 opposing viewpoints. about a topic. In this essay, I think that our conclusion should take the ideas of paragraphs 3 and 4 to their logical conclusion. And that is, this research into anti-aging needs to stop. Ugh, it's terrible. So let's have a look.
Rather than being a dream, eternal life could be a nightmare, destroying the planet for all of its inhabitants, human and non-human. As a result, this research should be urgently halted, and humans should seek to exist as a part of this world, and not beyond it. We have started by providing a contrast to our introduction. We have replaced dream with nightmare. Cambridge loves this sort of thing, as it provides a clear link between our introduction and our conclusion. We restate the central danger of eternal life, connected to previously made points, and then we end with a strong opinion. Done. And again, here is our complete essay. Have a look.
Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is that there is no one ideal, perfect Cambridge C2 Proficiency essay structure. No. The two that I have given you are simple guidelines that you can follow, if you want. If you have two contrasting texts, then write 4 paragraphs, with paragraphs 2 and 3 analysing and evaluating the points of view of each text. If you have 2 complementary texts, then write 5 paragraphs. Paragraph 2 outlining one text, paragraph 3 building from that text by analysing another text, and then paragraph 4 to present your own ideas. But these are not rules. Just make sure that everything you do is done with a reason, and that you've organised things in a way that is logical and makes things as clear as possible for the reader. As long as you've done that, you'll be fine. Oof, and with that, we are finished. Those were 2 ways that you can plan and structure your Cambridge C2 Proficiency CPE essays. If you liked the video, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, leave a comment down below. My name is Toby, and this was Smash English.